Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going somewhere that might surprise you. We're going into the world of seduction,
Oh, wow.
as explained by self-proclaimed experts in a series of lectures that we found.
Okay.
And, you might be wondering, why are we exploring this? Well, these techniques, even the ones that are maybe a little questionable, reveal a lot about how persuasion works in all areas of life. Think marketing, sales, politics, even just like everyday conversations.
Hmm.
So buckle up.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack concepts like tonality, rapport, even something called embedded commands. And to guide us through this fascinating and maybe a little bit strange landscape, we have our very insightful expert.
Oh,
Great to have you.
it's definitely a unique area to explore.
Yeah.
I think we're going to find some pretty surprising things about just, human psychology and the power of influence.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just jump right in. Okay, so these seduction experts, they start by emphasizing something called rapport. They claim it's the bedrock of their whole approach, right? And basically, it's about mirroring someone's body language, tone, even their word choices to build a connection.
Right. It's fascinating how they're really tapping into the power of the subconscious here. They suggest that by mirroring someone, you can create this sense of trust and understanding without them even consciously realizing it's happening. It's like a subtle form of influence that can be, honestly, quite effective.
They even talk about matching someone's trans words, which are basically just words that reveal their kind of current state of mind.
Right.
But they also warn against getting stuck in this like rapport mode, right?
Yeah.
They stress the importance of leading once that connection is established, and this is where things get really interesting. They introduce these ideas of hypnotic language patterns and something called embedded commands. Have you ever heard of these?
Yeah, these are phrases that are kind of carefully crafted to influence someone's thoughts and actions,
Yeah.
oftentimes below their conscious awareness.
Kind of sneaky. They even provide examples of how they use questions to figure out someone's values, and then they tailor their language to align with those values.
Wow.
So it's almost like they're creating a customized script
Right.
for each person that they're interacting with.
And that's not just limited to the world of seduction either, right? You think about marketing campaigns, targeted ads, political speeches. I mean, understanding how language can be used to influence us is so crucial in a world where we are just constantly bombarded with information.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So they also bring up this concept of sensory acuity, which is essentially paying close attention to someone's reactions to what you're saying and doing.
Yeah.
They use this feedback to adjust their approach, and they call it calibrating their techniques.
Uh-huh.
It almost sounds like they're treating human interaction like a science experiment.
Well, in a way, they kind of are, right?
Yeah.
They're constantly analyzing the other person's responses,
Mm.
looking for those cues on how to best influence them.
Right. And to really bring it to life, they use storytelling and like vivid sensory descriptions to create strong mental images and evoke emotions.
Wow.
One example that they actually give, they call it the Japanese restaurant pattern. It involves a detailed narrative about a relaxing experience designed to put the listener in a receptive state.
Makes you wonder, right? Is this genuine connection or calculated manipulation?
That is the question.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they're really blurring the lines between authenticity and strategy here.
definitely. The story just becomes a vehicle to subtly link relaxation, indulgence, and eventually intimacy.
Mm.
It's all about planting those ideas in the listener's subconscious.
It's very, it's a little creepy.
Yeah.
Speaking of stories, one of the experts, he is very enthusiastic about poetry.
Poetry.
Poetry, yes.
Okay.
He believes it's a powerful tool for seduction because it uses that evocative language and imagery
Uh-huh.
to create a kind of trance-like state in the listener. He even suggests a specific technique to enhance your tonality when you're reading poetry, involving pressing your ear to feel the vibrations of your voice.
Oh, wow.
It's a little strange.
Yeah.
This focus on tonality and rhythm, though, I mean, it connects to a much larger concept, how we respond to sound and music on an emotional level.
Absolutely. I mean, think about how certain songs or melodies can just evoke those like really specific feelings or memories, right?
Absolutely.
They're tapping into that same primal power.
Yeah. Throughout these recordings, there's this underlying message of confidence and self-belief. They believe that projecting this image of strength and charisma is just essential for success.
Okay.
They use the example of a police officer to illustrate this power of congruency in projecting authority. A crisp uniform, a confident posture, that don't mess with me attitude.
So these experts seem to equate confidence with dominance.
Hmm.
Do you think that's a healthy view? Is there like a different kind of confidence that might be more effective in building genuine connections?
That's a really good point. I mean, it seems like they're promoting a very specific type of confidence, one that might not resonate with everyone.
Right.
And while they do mention ethical considerations and respecting boundaries, their main focus is on getting the girl, using whatever means necessary. I mean, this raises some red flags, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It really highlights the tension between, like, persuasion and manipulation. Where does influence become unethical? That's a question worth pondering, as we delve deeper into these techniques.
For sure. One of them even uses the phrase bullshit frames. Yeah. Essentially, it's about creating a false pretense to start a conversation or interaction, like pretending to do handwriting analysis for a psychology project as a way to approach women.
This definitely blurs the lines between being playful and being deceptive.
Yeah, it's a very gray area.
For sure.
Overall, these recordings, they provide this unique and very controversial perspective on, the art of seduction.
It is a very unique world.
It's a glimpse into a subculture that might seem, strange or even unsettling to some.
Yeah.
But it also forces us to ask some tough questions about communication, influence, and, human psychology.
It's a good reminder that these techniques exist.
Yeah.
And they are being used, whether we're aware of them or not.
All the time.
And understanding how they work can help us just navigate the complexities of human interaction more effectively.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in terms of, their overall philosophy. Let's move on to some of the specific techniques that they recommend. I'm curious to hear your take on them.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's unpack these tactics and see if they actually hold up under scrutiny.
Yeah.
So, where should we start? Their use of humor, maybe.
Yeah, let's talk about humor. I mean, they seem to think it's essential for breaking the ice with women and, forging that connection.
Mm-hmm.
One of them even said, there is no opening as good as humor. They both really stress being playful and outrageous, using humor that fits the environment or the situation.
It's interesting how they kind of see humor not as genuine shared enjoyment, but as this tool for manipulation,
Yeah.
It's not about authentic laughter or finding common ground through a shared sense of humor. It's almost like they're using humor strategically to lower someone's guard and make them more susceptible to their advances.
Right, right. They even give specific examples of, jokes and one-liners they've used.
Oh, really?
Some are pretty cheesy, to be honest,
Right.
telling a woman with a copy of Desperado that she scares him, or asking a woman reading web pages for dummies if she's a dummy.
Oh, my God.
But they claim that these jokes work because they're delivered with confidence and congruency.
It's the classic, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
Argument, right.
Totally.
They believe that their confidence and charisma can make even the lamest jokes land. It feels a bit like self-delusion, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, one of them even claims that he doesn't need to use, high-quality humor because his, playfulness and spontaneity are enough to make women laugh.
That's a pretty convenient excuse for not developing a real sense of humor.
Right.
And it kind of dismisses women's intelligence, assuming they'll be so charmed, they won't even notice the jokes are terrible.
Right, they're just going to fall for anything.
Right.
They talk about using humor with sexual undertones, but caution against being sexist.
That's a very fine line to walk.
Huh.
Humor meant to be, suggestive can easily veer into objectification and disrespect.
Oh, yeah, for sure. One expert says he likes to use pickup lines, but only after he's already gotten a laugh with other jokes.
It's almost as if he thinks using humor earns him the right to then use those cheesy pickup lines.
Right, exactly. Okay, so moving on. They also emphasize the importance of understanding a woman's values.
Okay.
They believe that knowing what's important to her is, key to creating that irresistible bond they keep talking about.
So this is where their approach becomes a bit more nuanced. It's not just about these surface level techniques anymore.
Right.
They're actually trying to tap into deeper motivations and desires.
Yeah. They suggest asking questions like, what has to happen for you to feel totally in love?
Right.
Or what happens when you're with a guy that makes you feel comfortable inside?
Those are actually pretty good questions. They're designed to get someone talking about their emotional needs
Yeah,
and values.
yeah. But then they talk about using that information to basically mirror back to the woman what they think she wants to hear.
Oh.
So, for example, if she mentions liking healthy food, they might say, oh, yeah, I make amazing fresh fruit muffins.
There's the manipulation creeping back in, right?
Yeah.
They're using someone's values
Mm-hmm.
to create a false sense of compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're building a relationship based on a carefully crafted persona instead of, genuine shared interest.
Exactly, yeah. They also talk about value hierarchies and chunking up to like figure out a woman's highest level values. They believe that the higher you go in the hierarchy, the more powerful the value becomes.
This concept is actually borrowed from neurolinguistic programming, or NLP, a field that's often associated with manipulation and mind control. It's about, understanding how someone's beliefs and values are structured in order to influence their behavior.
And to give you an idea of just how far they take this, they even talk about values morphing, where they visualize a woman's ideal relationship and then try to morph themselves into that image.
That's a pretty creepy visual. It's
Yeah.
like they're trying to, implant themselves into her subconscious as the answer to all her desires.
Right, it's getting a little weird. Okay, so next they address how to deal with resistance. They acknowledge that women won't always be receptive and advise against giving up too easily.
This actually makes sense, though, right? Persistence is important in many areas of life.
Sure.
But there's a big difference between healthy persistence and, harassment.
For sure, for sure. But they compare a successful seducer to a used car salesman who faces rejection every day but still manages to sell cars.
That's a pretty disturbing analogy. It reduces seduction to, a sales pitch, where the goal is just closing the deal, regardless of the other person's feelings.
Right. I mean, they offer examples of how they've dealt with resistance, like reframing a woman's concerns or using humor to deflect criticism.
It's important to remember that these techniques can be used ethically or unethically.
Right?
Reframing can help someone see a situation from a different perspective,
Yeah.
but it can also be a way to just dismiss their concerns.
Mm.
And humor can diffuse tension,
Yeah.
but it can also be used to avoid, tough conversations.
Right, exactly. They also talk about having, the right mindset when approaching women.
Okay.
They say things like, I'm about to get her and have loads of fun in the process, and she knows I'm the best guy she can be with.
It's a very ego-driven approach. It's fueled by, this need for validation and control.
Yeah. One of them even said, I'm armed to the teeth with seduction techniques. I layer them over and over again. I stack them, and I deliver knockout punches.
Wow, that's a very aggressive way to look at relationships. It sounds more like going into battle than seeking a connection.
Right. And they emphasize not being needy or desperate. They believe that women are turned off by men who show too much vulnerability.
It's a message that really reinforces the idea that men should just hide their emotions and, project this image of strength and self-sufficiency.
Yeah, totally. And they talk about being playful and having fun, but it seems like their idea of fun is often at the expense of the women that they're interacting with.
Right. It's a very self-centered kind of playfulness that, lacks genuine empathy and respect for the other person.
One expert even kind of brags about cooking for women because it plays to their values. He boasts about making great fresh fruit muffins and Greek omelets.
Another example of using these superficial gestures to create a false sense of connection. It's not about genuinely wanting to, connect with someone on a deeper level. It's about using whatever means necessary to get what they want.
Right, right. And they constantly talk about setting clear outcomes and closing the deal. They advise against wasting time on women who don't seem receptive to their advances.
That's a very transactional view of relationships. Women are just seen as these conquests
Yeah.
rather than individuals worthy of respect.
Yeah, and they even compare seduction to investing, where you assess the potential return before deciding if you want to pursue someone.
That's such a dehumanizing way to approach human connection.
Right.
It reduces relationships to a cost-benefit analysis where someone's value is based solely on their willingness to sleep with you.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing. I mean, overall, these recordings paint a pretty disturbing picture of a subculture that sees seduction as a game to be won using whatever tactics are necessary.
It really reminds us how important critical thinking is, and just being aware of how people try to manipulate us.
Absolutely. It's also a good reminder, I think, about, just being authentic and treating others with respect, no matter what our intentions are. So it's clear these seduction experts, they have a very calculated and manipulative approach to, interacting with women. But I'm wondering, are there any techniques or concepts they discuss that that could be applied in a more ethical, more positive way?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, while their overall philosophy is definitely ethically questionable, there are some individual techniques that they mention that could be, used for good. For instance, their emphasis on building rapport, like through mirroring and active listening,
Right.
that could be so helpful in, any interaction, whether it's, negotiating a business deal or having a family discussion or even just connecting with a friend.
Yeah, they also talk about using sensory-rich language and storytelling to create captivating experiences. Oh, absolutely. Those are valuable communication skills that can, like, enrich any interaction. Think about, how teachers use storytelling to make learning fun, or how marketers use those vivid descriptions to make products more appealing.
Right, right. And they stress the importance of confidence and congruency, which are traits that can definitely contribute to success in a lot of areas of life.
Yeah. But true confidence, I think, comes from, self-acceptance and authenticity,
Right,
not this need to, dominate or control others.
right. It's a different kind of confidence.
Exactly.
So it's not necessarily the techniques themselves that are problematic, but the underlying intentions and how they're applied.
Yeah, exactly. It all comes down to context and, ethics. These techniques, they can be used to build genuine connections, to improve communication, but they can also be used to manipulate and exploit.
Mm.
It's up to each individual to decide how they want to use these tools.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also important to remember that, seduction is a two-way street. It's not about one person imposing their will on another.
Right. It's about, mutual attraction and a shared desire for connection.
Well said. I mean, authentic seduction is about, you know, being your best self and allowing the other person to do the same. It's about creating a space for genuine connection to like unfold naturally.
That's a good way to put it. So, what can we take away from all of this? I mean, it's up to each of you listening to decide how you interpret these techniques and the philosophy behind them. But one thing's for sure, I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
Absolutely. As you encounter different people and different situations, consider how these concepts might be at play.
Yeah.
Are there subtle ways that language and behavior are being used to influence your thoughts and actions?
That's a great question. And here's a final thought to ponder. If these techniques can be used for seduction, how else could they be applied? Could they be used to strengthen relationships, to improve communication, or even, to inspire positive change in the world? That's for you to explore. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating deep dive. Until next time, keep those critical thinking skills sharp.